What happened to our education system? What's happening to our education system? Today's videos, I'm calling it a back to school edition. We're going back to school. Hi everybody, my name is Robert Bell. Welcome back to my channel. I'm happy you've joined me today. In this video, this is a back to school edition. At the time of this recording, November 2020, most schools around the world are open, if you want to call it that, physically or virtual attendance. And we're trying to get our bearings back. We're trying to get back to some sense of normalcy so children can continue to learn. This is on the heels of the global COVID-19 pandemic, and education for our children has been disrupted. But my question is, does education stop at the classroom? Can we not educate our children even outside of the classroom? And today is highly unscripted, and I just wanted to share my thoughts around this whole aspect of children going back to school. Now note, this is not a pro children attending school physically or pro children not attending school physically. That's not up for discussion today. I'm not talking about whether children should physically go back to school or not. My concern here is what happens to the learning of our children. Is the learning of our children only limited to school? I mean, I understand the way our society is set up. We're busy. As parents, we're busy, so we outsource learning to the school. And that's a challenge. When we 100% outsource learning to the school and we don't take part as parents or as guardians in our society, then our children suffer. And that's why for months on end, depending on where you live and which country, education and learning for some children stopped, literally ceased, right? Because schools were closed. And this is something I've been talking about for a while, that education is not just about doing exams or learning facts, right? We need to educate our children for life and about life. That is what true education is about. I'll give you an example. When went into lockdown here in Kenya, my eldest daughter goes to a school. I happened to sit on the PTA, and we challenged each other, and we said, look, education of our children must continue. And education here didn't mean the curriculum. Everyone is back to school now, trying to shove curriculum back in children's faces. We got to catch up, we're behind, etc. But education is about learning in and through all circumstances. It's the ability, it's how to learn more than what to learn, right? So that no experience is ever wasted. We don't waste an opportunity. You can learn. So even during this pandemic, what can children learn? What can our children learn? What can the students learn through this pandemic? That for me is meaningful education. So back when my eldest daughter, with the school, parents, we said, look, our children must continue to learn because life goes on. And what can they learn through this circumstance? And look, I get it. As parents, some of us have lost jobs. We're trying to figure things out. And I'm not trying here to bash anyone or to ridicule you. I just want to enlighten us, awaken us that we must take charge of teaching and educating our children. And so we discussed and we said, look, we got to continue educating our children. And so the school, with their wisdom and learning and development team, started coming up with different things for children to learn. So my daughter, we selected with her, she's 6 years old, and she's right now, doing virtually because we've not been allowed to go back to school yet. She's been doing public speaking, entrepreneurship, and science, right? So we said, look, we don't want to just be doing science, math, reading, and those options are available for those who want to keep those skills up. But she's learning other life skills, if you want to call it that, and she's doing quite well. Her entrepreneurship class, she learned about money. She started her first business. She started doing a lemonade stand in the area where we live, and the children keep coming, knocking at our door. When are you making more? It's not been something too consistent, but she ran the business. She went to the shop, she got her ingredients, made the lemonade, sold it, accounted for her things, and it was just she said she enjoyed the experience. Okay, she did make a bit of a loss, and the daddy in me was like, come on, we gotta improve those numbers. But I had to tell myself, calm down. It's about the lesson that she's learning. It's not just about making a profit. But she learned the lesson and she enjoyed it very much. And that is meaningful education for me, and I really just want to celebrate that those opportunities that I'm saying things that I've seen with my own eyes that are working. So the question for you is, how do we let our children learn through all of this? What should they learn? I mean, if I had my way, when schools open and children go back to the classroom, I would throw the curriculum out of the window, radical as it is. And I will sit down for at least 2 weeks and talk to children. What have you gone through this experience? I mean, this experience has been traumatizing for a number of us. Now I hear you. Some of you are like, no, school is not about, this is not a a therapy class, etc. But how else can we learn? As parents, we also need to sit down with our children. How have, what's been going on with you for the last few months? We might be in the same house, but we don't know what people are dealing with, right? This is an unprecedented sort of experience, at least for this generation. So I would go back to the classroom, I would ditch the curriculum out of the window, and I'm not saying it's useless, but I would focus on the current reality, because it's as if we're tone deaf. Like, we want to just go back to school, continue learning how to count, continue learning how to read, learning physics and all. And these are good things to learn, but we're tone deaf. We're not paying attention to what's happening in reality. We're not resonating or responding to what we're experiencing, because we can learn from that. And I would just sit down with children and I would find out what have you gone through, what experiences have you learned. I just take it from there to understand where children are, because how can you teach someone when they're not mentally prepared to learn? So we should have a sort of transition back to school. It's been a big gap for a lot of children, and some people need to go through that transition before they start absorbing so much content and absorbing facts. Let's sit down with them. If I had my way, just find out what's been going on and work through that. And this is a great opportunity to talk about things like mental health. How do you protect your mental health? And the schools can help with that. We can do it at the household level, at the family level, but schools can help with that. Deal with, how do you deal with the stress of maybe your parents losing a job or etc. Just working through those things. And that for me would be meaningful education, much more than a certificate, right? And the way the world is going, standardized testing is not necessarily bringing out the best of us, right? And so those are my thoughts around this education and going back to school. I would encourage you, wherever you are, get in contact with your school district, whoever it is, and demand that the education be more responsive. But you also take a personal approach. You also take a personal interest to teach the children, sit down with them. And it's okay to be vulnerable with children and say, this is what I'm learning. Because we're also learning as adults. And that's the way children can learn, that there's nothing wrong with learning. It's never too late to learn. We can learn through everything. And that way we can get ourselves unstuck. So as you seek to develop yourself personally and professionally, focus on the ability on how to learn. And if we got that when we were in school, we'll be in a much better place and to handle such situations. And you know me, always championing creativity. And that's why I love creativity. It's the ability to handle uncertainty. It's the ability to navigate through uncertainty. That's the most fundamental skill that we all need. I'm going to leave you with two quotations that just speaks to this a lot. Albert Einstein says that education is not about learning of facts, but the training of the mind to think. So I'll repeat that. Albert Einstein says that education is not the learning of facts, but the training of the mind to think. And another quotation that I absolutely love is in the book called Education, and the author is Ellen White, and she says that that every human being created in the image of God is endowed with a power akin to that of the Creator: individuality, power to think and to do. The men in whom this power is developed are men who can bear responsibilities, who are leaders in enterprise, and who influence character. It is the work of true education to develop this power, to train the youth to be thinkers and not mere reflectors of other men's thoughts. One of the things that will help us through this pandemic is the ability for us to think. Too often we're sitting down waiting for someone to tell us what to do. We're waiting for the government to tell us what to do. We're waiting for a vaccine. We're waiting for so many other things. And yes, those are good options. But the best thing that we can do is come together and think, how can we work through this situation? How can we work through this problem? How can we make and move forward to life? And let's stop trying to go back to normal, because we're not going backwards. We move forward in life. How do we move forward to a new normal? How do we learn? How do we develop new skills? So this was a back to school edition, bit of ranting, if you want to call it that, but I'm very passionate about this, so I hope you've gotten something. If you've gotten any value from this video, please leave a comment. It really does mean a lot. It helps me to know what you're resonating with, and if the content is meaningful to you. And hit the like button if you like this video, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be notified when I release more videos if this content is speaking to you. So thanks guys for tuning in today. I'll catch you next time.